So I want to talk a little bit this morning about three things. I want to talk about the movie Step Brothers. I want to talk about living rent-free, and I want to talk about Jesus. So you may not all be familiar with the movie Step Brothers. It's your loss, I want you to know. Be familiar with this movie, but it is your loss. This stars Will Ferrell and John C. Reilly, and they are put together as 30-year-old brothers who their parents get married, second marriages for both of them, and all of a sudden they are forced to live together, and they're both living rent-free in their parents' house, and they hate each other. And the reality, and what happens is that their encounters destroy their parents' marriage, right? Because they're so antagonistic, they're so confrontational that it sucks all the energy out of the room, all the energy out of the relationship, and all of a sudden there's nothing left to do except for the parents to break up, the kids to be kicked out of the house and have to figure stuff out on their own. Now, I don't know if you've ever had someone live rent-free with you, but this is not an unfamiliar situation, right? Often we invite someone into our space, we invite someone into our home, into our lives, because they have nowhere else to go and they're struggling, and it ends up being kind of a time suck and kind of an energy suck as well. And it doesn't mean we shouldn't do it, right? There's good gospel reasons to do this, but that I think when we do it, we have to acknowledge that there's going to be some pain and heartache that goes with it, right? With this kind of letting someone live rent-free with you. And so if you're sort of familiar with the online jargon of the day, there's the idea of living rent-free in your head. And we let things live rent-free in our brains. And this is often used sort of as a derogatory thing to say, well, you know, you're letting that person live rent-free in your mind. You're letting that person occupy all your thoughts, feelings, emotions, everything else. And it's taking away all your energy for something else. And we kind of celebrate sometimes, if it's our team that's living rent-free, we celebrate how great we are at destroying the lives, or not the lives, but the thoughts and peace of mind of the other, and they do the same to us, right? Living rent-free. So this is what's happening in the gospel, right? That this idea of paying rent, or this idea of paying taxes to the empire is living rent-free in all of Judaism's head in the first century. They've been conquered by the Roman Empire. They do not worship Roman gods, yet they have to pay taxes to the Roman church, to the Roman state. And this was a poll tax, not a poll tax like we think of it for voting, but a poll tax that you had to pay in order to be a part of Roman society, which worked for Romans because they're the ones who were going to the temples and putting money in this, giving money to these gods who they believed were giving them blessings and everything else. But it doesn't work for the Jews because the Jewish people don't worship those gods and they don't go to Rome. They don't take part in the Senate. They don't take part in any of this. But they are so excised about having to pay this tax that often it's all they can think about. It's living rent-free in their heads, this question of the tax of 1 denarius, which is a 1 day's wage that has to be paid to take part in society. And so this thing is living rent-free in their heads, and the Pharisees think they have something to get Jesus, right? Because they know that every Jewish person in the state, in Israel at that time, in Palestine, hates this tax. And they think, well, if Jesus says they have to pay it, then they're going to hate Jesus. And if he says they don't have to pay it, the Romans are going to come get him. So they've been so fixated, the Pharisees and everyone else have been so fixated on this one day's wage tax that they can't think about anything else, right? And Jesus does this beautiful thing. He does this beautiful thing. He says, give me the coin. It's got the emperor's face on it. Give it to the emperor. And then focus your mind on God. Don't let the emperor live rent-free in your head. Pay the tax. Be done with it. That's it. But render everything else to God. Make God the priority. What is living rent-free in your head today? What is living rent-free in your head today? What is occupying so much of your time, so much of your energy, so much of your enthusiasm, your emotion, your very being, that you don't feel yourself? What is it? Jesus is telling us to let that go. Pay the tax, throw the coin, and then focus our attention, our time, our energy, our heart on God. Focus our time, energy, attention, and heart on God. It is my humble estimation that all of us have been rendering way too much of our time, energy, and attention to Caesar in these last few months, myself included. It's a royal we, right? And it is time for us to direct our time, energy, attention to God. Pay the tax. Do the things we have to do. Deal with the problems at hand in this time, but don't let it overwhelm you, obsess you, make you into someone that you are not. Because the benefit of letting God live rent-free in our minds, of letting Jesus live in our minds, is that Jesus pays the rent. Right? Jesus pays the rent. When we let Jesus live in our minds, in our hearts, in our souls, it makes us better. It brings peace, hope, joy, understanding, compassion, love. All those things that we say we need right now, that we say are missing in the world, come when we let Jesus live in our minds. Because Jesus pays the rent. Now, what happens when Jesus pays the rent? What happens when our hearts, minds, and energy gets directed somewhere else? It means that we begin to evoke this sense of godly love, this sense of Christ's love in the world around us. Because we, unlike many landlords, are generous landlords. And when that blessing comes from God to us, we can't help but give it out. And so we bring others peace and joy and love and hope. Now, it's no secret that in the next few weeks, life is going to get real challenging in how we interact with each other, how we interact with people that we like, people we don't like, with family, with friends, with neighbors. And it's going to be really tempting to let the empire live rent-free in our heads. It's going to be really tempting to get sucked into negativity, into hurt, into hate. So I want to encourage you to pay those taxes, do what you need to do, but then direct everything else towards Christ. And what you'll find, I hope, is that when you begin to let God live rent-free in your minds, when you begin to evoke that sense of love and care and compassion, you will do the things that you were so upset that the empire is not doing. You will do the things that you were so upset that the empire is not doing, not feeding the hungry, not caring for the sick, not loving those who need love, not sharing with those who need sharing. welcoming the immigrant and the stranger and the foreigner and the prisoner. All those things that we are really angry that are not happening right now. But if we let Christ live up here and in here, Christ pays the rent. And with that, we can be those living examples of God's hands and feet in the world. And just maybe, starting small, maybe just in the few blocks around where this church is, where you live, we'll begin to create a different kingdom. And then it can get bigger and bigger and bigger. So friends, this week, pay the tax, look at the coin, give it to whoever it is, and let it go. And then turn your attention, your energy, your heart, your mind, your soul to God, so that we can begin to create that kingdom that God so richly desires, here and everywhere. Amen.